Official agency records. Unaltered visual proof. Transparent enforcement. This is bodycam incident reports.
Put the camera down. You need a permit to shoot here.
This is my son. It's his birthday. This is a public square.
You're casing the stores. ID. Now.
I haven't broken any law. You have no call.
Hands behind your back.
You're assaulting me in front of my child.
Daddy! Sergeant Thomas "Tommy" Rourke had patrolled the historic district of Founders Square in Charleston for 26 years. The last 18 of those years were spent specifically in the commercial district, a 4-block radius of high-end boutiques, antique stores, and 5-star bistros, where tourists spent $80 on lunch and the cobblestones were scrubbed daily. Rourke was a fixture. The store owners knew him. The mayor waved at him. He was the shield of the square. But behind the friendly waves and the pristine uniform lay a different set of numbers. In those 18 years, Rourke had generated 42 civilian complaints. 42 separate incidents where black tourists, Latino delivery drivers, and local Asian students were stopped, frisked, and interrogated for suspicious behavior, while simply existing in public spaces. Every single complaint had been dismissed by internal affairs as proactive policing or justified suspicion based on experience. His precinct captain called him vigilant. The police union called him a model officer. No one called him what he was: a man who believed that the public square belonged to some people and that others were merely trespassing in it. On a Tuesday afternoon in late spring, the protective bubble around Sergeant Rourke was about to burst. Marcus Ellison was not a suspect. He was a 44-year-old senior architect at Ellison & Graves, one of the most prestigious architectural firms in the Southeast. In fact, Marcus Ellison had led the design team that renovated Founders Square 5 years prior. He had chosen the limestone for the benches. He had designed the sight lines for the fountains. He had fought the city council to ensure the park remained open to the public without gates. He knew every inch of that square because he had drawn it. That afternoon, he was there for the most important client of his life, his son, Leo. Leo was turning 12. He was a shy, artistic boy who had just survived a brutal year of middle school bullying. For his birthday, Leo had asked for only one thing: a professional photo shoot with his dad, who was an avid hobbyist photographer. Leo had picked out his outfit: a crisp navy blazer, khaki pants, and a vintage newsboy cap. He looked dapper. He looked happy. They had been in the square for 20 minutes. Marcus was using a Canon R5 with an 85mm portrait lens, capturing the sunlight filtering through the oaks. He was telling dad jokes to get Leo to smile naturally. "Okay, Leo, look at the fountain. Think about pizza. Think about extra cheese." Leo laughed, a genuine, bright sound that cut through the humidity. Marcus snapped the shutter. It was the perfect shot. And to Sergeant Thomas Rourke, watching from his cruiser parked illegally in a loading zone, that joy meant only one thing: deception. A black man with professional-grade equipment in a high-theft retail area. A child used as a prop to lower suspicion. To Rourke's warped instincts, this was a reconnaissance team. He convinced himself the camera was documenting security cameras and store layouts. That toxic assumption triggered a sequence of events that would end Rourke's career, spark a federal investigation, and result in a $12 million settlement that would shake the city's administration to its core. Before we dive deeper into this story, where are you tuning in from? Do you think photography in a public square should ever be considered suspicious activity? Let us know in the comments below. And if you believe in holding power accountable, please hit that subscribe button. It helps us tell the stories that the mainstream media often ignores. Founders Square was the jewel of the city, surrounded by Georgian architecture and shaded by massive live oaks draped in Spanish moss. It was a place where history met commerce. Tourists flocked here for the carriage rides. Locals came for the artisan coffee. It was a space of leisure, of safety, of assumed wealth. Marcus Ellison had grown up 20 miles away in a working-class neighborhood. His father was a mechanic, his mother a schoolteacher. They had saved every penny to send him to Georgia Tech. Marcus had obsessed over buildings since he was 5 years old. He didn't just want to build them, he wanted to create spaces where people felt welcome. His success was undeniable. He drove an Audi. He lived in a restored Victorian home in the historic district just 6 blocks from the square. He was a pillar of the community. But Marcus knew the rules. He knew that despite his degree, his portfolio, and his tax bracket, he walked through the world with a target on his back. He had taught Leo the talk earlier than he wanted to. Keep your hands visible. Speak clearly. Don't run. He thought they were safe in Founders Square. After all, Marcus had literally designed the lighting grid they were standing under. "Dad, can we get ice cream after this?" Leo asked, adjusting his cap. "You bet," Marcus said, checking the exposure on his screen. "One more shot by the statue. The light is hitting the bronze perfectly. Go stand by the base." Leo trotted over to the statue of the city's founder. Marcus crouched down, framing the shot. He was focused on the depth of field, blurring the background to make his son pop. He didn't hear the heavy boots crunching on the gravel until the shadow fell over him. Marcus lowered the camera and looked up. Sergeant Rourke towered over him, hand resting on his utility belt, thumb hooked near his holster. He wasn't wearing a body camera. The department policy was lax, and Rourke often forgot to charge his. "Afternoon," Marcus said, keeping his voice level. He stood up slowly. Rourke didn't return the greeting. He stared at the camera, then at Marcus, then at Leo. "You got a permit for that commercial photography?" Marcus blinked. "This isn't commercial. This is my son. It's his birthday." "That's a professional rig," Rourke said, stepping closer, invading Marcus's personal space. "City Ordinance 44B requires a permit for commercial shoots in the square. We've had a lot of thefts lately. Jewelry stores getting hit. Professional crews casing the joints beforehand." Marcus felt the familiar cold dread in his stomach, but he pushed it down. "Officer, I'm an architect. This is a hobby. I'm taking pictures of my 12-year-old. I'm not casing anything." "ID," Rourke snapped. "Am I being detained?" Marcus asked. He knew his rights. He knew that in a public space, unless there was reasonable suspicion of a crime, he didn't have to identify himself. "I said, let me see your ID. I want to know who's operating a telephoto lens looking into shop windows." "I haven't pointed this lens at a single shop window," Marcus said, his grip tightening on the camera strap. "I've been photographing the fountain and the statue, and my son." "Dad," Leo's voice was small. He had stepped away from the statue. "Is everything okay?" "Stay there, Leo," Marcus said, his eyes never leaving Rourke. "Everything is fine." "I told you to step away from the boy," Rourke barked, his voice rising, drawing the attention of passers-by. "Put the camera on the ground, now. I need to check the SD card to see what you've been filming." "You need a warrant for that," Marcus said, backing up a step. "And I'm not putting a $5,000 lens on the concrete. I haven't broken any laws." That was when Rourke snapped. The defiance, the knowledge of the law, the refusal to submit it challenged his authority. And for men like Rourke, authority was the only currency they understood. "You're interfering with an investigation," Rourke said, reaching for his radio. "Dispatch, I've got a non-compliant male 1035 at the North Fountain, refusing lawful orders, possible suspect in the gallery robberies." "Suspect?" Marcus shouted, the absurdity finally breaking his composure. "I designed this square. My name is on the plaque right over there." "Hands behind your back." Rourke lunged. He didn't wait for backup. He grabbed Marcus by the shoulder, spinning him around. "Hey, watch the camera," Marcus yelled, trying to shield the equipment while not resisting. Rourke swept Marcus's legs, slamming him into the side of the limestone fountain wall, the very wall Marcus had sketched on a napkin 6 years ago. The camera swung wildly, hitting the stone with a sickening crack. Leo screamed, "Dad, stop it! Leave him alone!" The boy ran forward, terrified. Rourke, adrenaline pumping, pointed a finger at the 12-year-old. "Back up! Back the hell up, or you're next!" "Don't you talk to him!" Marcus roared, struggling against Rourke's grip on his wrist. "He's a child! Stop resisting!" Rourke jammed his knee into Marcus's thigh, pinning him against the stone. The square had gone silent, then erupted. A woman sitting on a nearby bench had her phone out. A group of college students stopped. But the person who changed the dynamic was a man in a tailored suit walking out of the bistro across the street. Julian Vance was a criminal defense attorney known in the city as the Shark. He had seen the entire interaction from the patio. "Officer!" Vance shouted, his voice booming like he was in a courtroom. "Disengage immediately." Rourke looked up, sweating Marcus pinned under his arm. "Back off, citizen. This is police business." Vance walked right up to the yellow line of the scene, his phone recording horizontally steady as a rock. "I am Julian Vance, attorney at law. I have been watching for 10 minutes. You approached this man without probable cause. He was photographing his child. You are currently committing assault and battery under the color of law, and you just threatened a minor." Rourke hesitated. He recognized the name. Vance had sued the department 3 years ago and won. "He refused to ID." Rourke stammered, his grip loosening slightly on Marcus. "He matched a description." "What description?" Vance challenged. "The description of the jewelry thief was a white male 5'10" wearing a hoodie. This man is black 6'2", wearing a polo shirt, photographing a child in a blazer. Are you colorblind, Sergeant, or just incompetent?" Marcus took the opportunity to pull his arm free, though he didn't strike back. He turned to Leo. "Leo, come here. Come to Daddy." Leo was sobbing, shaking, clutching his birthday sash. Marcus fell to his knees, not in submission, but to hug his son. "It's okay, I'm here. Look at me. Look." Rourke was standing there, chest heaving, realizing the crowd was closing in. Phones were everywhere. He was casing the stores." Rourke tried again, addressing the crowd. "Standard procedure." "I'm live streaming to 30,000 people right now," a college student yelled from the fountain's edge. "We all saw it, man. He was taking birthday pics." Backup arrived. 2 cruisers screeched onto the cobblestones. But the dynamic had shifted. The officers who emerged saw the famous Julian Vance recording the sobbing child, the well-dressed father checking his cracked camera lens, and Sergeant Rourke looking like a cornered animal. The ranking officer, Lieutenant Miller, approached Vance first. "Mr. Vance, what do we have here?" "You have a civil rights lawsuit, Lieutenant," Vance said calmly. "And if you don't de-escalate this immediately and let that man go, you'll have a riot." Miller looked at Rourke. "Did you arrest him?" "I detained him for investigation," Rourke said, defensive. "He resisted." Marcus stood up, holding Leo's hand. "I did not resist. I asserted my Fourth Amendment rights. He slammed me against a wall and cracked a $4,000 lens. And he threatened my 12-year-old son." "Let me see the ID now," Miller said, softer, trying to mediate. "Just to clear this up, sir." Marcus reached into his pocket slowly. He pulled out his wallet and handed over his license. Also his business card from Ellison and Graves. Miller looked at the ID, then at the business card, then at the plaque on the fountain wall 10 feet away that read, "Restoration Lead Architect Marcus Ellison." Miller closed his eyes for a second, a moment of painful realization. He handed the ID back. "Mr. Ellison, you are free to go. We will be reviewing the footage." "There is no footage," Vance interjected. "Your sergeant isn't wearing a body cam, but don't worry, I have it. And so do about 20 other people." Marcus looked at Rourke. Rourke was staring at the ground, jaw clenched, unable to look the man he had assaulted in the eye. "Come on, Leo," Marcus said, his voice shaking with suppressed rage. "We're going home." "But Dad," Leo whispered, "did we do something bad?" That question, "Did we do something bad?" was the knife that twisted in Marcus's heart. "No, son," Marcus said, loud enough for Rourke to hear. "We didn't do anything bad. We just existed." "Do you think police officers should be personally liable for damages when they break the law?" "The lens cost $4,000. The trauma is priceless. Let us know your thoughts in the comments." The video Vance posted didn't just go viral, it detonated. Within 4 hours, the birthday arrest was trending #1 on Twitter X. The image of Leo screaming while Rourke pinned Marcus against the fountain became the defining image of the week. By the next morning, the video had 15 million views. By the weekend, 35 million. The contrast was too sharp to ignore. The beautiful sunny square, the well-dressed father and son, the brutality of the officer, the clear, undeniable racism of the suspicion. The internet detectives went to work. They found Rourke's name. They found his precinct. And then an investigative journalist from the Charleston Chronicle broke the dam. She requested Rourke's disciplinary file under the Freedom of Information Act. The headline ran on Sunday, "The Shield of the Square 42 Complaints, Zero Consequences." The article detailed the history of Sergeant Rourke. 2018, detained a black real estate agent showing a commercial property because he looked like he was breaking in. Dismissed. 2020 handcuffed a Filipino nurse eating lunch on a bench because she didn't look like she worked at the hospital. Dismissed. 2022. Drew his weapon on a Latino teenager tying his shoe near a bike rack. Dismissed. The police chief tried to hold a press conference. We ask for patience as we investigate the context of the situation. But the context was clear. The context was 18 years of unchecked bias. Marcus Ellison didn't wait for the internal investigation. He hired Julian Vance. They filed a federal lawsuit against the city, the police department, and Sergeant Rourke personally. The claims were exhaustive: false imprisonment, assault and battery, violation of First Amendment rights, retaliation for recording photography, violation of Fourth Amendment rights, unlawful seizure, intentional infliction of emotional distress, specifically regarding the trauma to a minor, negligent retention. The city keeping Rourke employed despite 42 complaints. The city attorneys tried to settle quickly. They offered $500,000. Marcus Ellison went on national television. He sat next to Leo, who was still too afraid to go back to the square. They offered me $500,000 to make this go away, Marcus told the anchor. But they didn't offer to fire him. They didn't offer to apologize to my son. I built that square so families could make memories. Sergeant Rourke turned my son's 12th birthday into a nightmare he will never forget. I don't want their hush money. I want justice. The public pressure became suffocating. The architectural firm Marcus worked for issued a statement threatening to pull out of all future city contracts if Rourke wasn't terminated. The tourism board reported a 20% drop in bookings as civil rights groups called for a boycott of the city. 3 weeks after the incident, the dam broke. The police commissioner resigned. The mayor announced an emergency session of the city council. And Sergeant Thomas Rourke was fired, not suspended, fired. The termination letter was leaked. It cited conduct unbecoming the use of excessive force and failure to adhere to constitutional standards. But Marcus wasn't done. The lawsuit proceeded to discovery. Vance and his team unearthed emails between Rourke and his supervisors where they joked about clearing the trash from the square. They found evidence that the jewelry store suspect description Rourke cited had been cleared over the radio 2 hours before he stopped Marcus. Rourke knew there was no suspect. He just wanted to harass a black man with a nice camera. The smoking gun was a memo from 2019 where a previous lieutenant had recommended Rourke for sensitivity training after he harassed a group of black clergy members, but the captain had overruled it, writing, "Rourke keeps the stats down. Let him work." That sentence, "let him work," cost the city millions. 10 months after the incident, the city capitulated. They couldn't risk a jury trial. The evidence of systemic negligence was overwhelming. The settlement was historic: $12 million, $8 million to Marcus and Leo Ellison, $4 million to a class action fund for the other victims of Rourke's 42 previous complaints, effectively reopening those cases. But the non-monetary terms were what made headlines. The Leo Ellison Rule, a new city ordinance strictly prohibiting police from interfering with photography in public spaces without a warrant or active crime in progress. Mandatory body cams. Any officer found interacting with the public with a deactivated camera faces immediate suspension. The 3 strikes review. Any officer with 3 substantiated civilian complaints within 2 years must undergo an independent review by a civilian oversight board. A public apology. Read by the new police chief, directed to Leo, televised live. Rourke didn't just lose his job. Because of the clear violation of constitutional rights, the city refused to indemnify him for punitive damages. He was personally sued. He lost his pension. He filed for bankruptcy. He moved 2 states away, but his name was forever attached to the video of him bullying a child. Marcus Ellison used a portion of the settlement to start the Focus Forward Foundation, a nonprofit that provides photography equipment and lessons to inner-city youth, teaching them that they have a right to document their world. But money and foundations don't fix everything. A year later, Marcus sat in his living room. The Canon R5 had been repaired, but he rarely used it. "You going to the square for the anniversary?" his wife asked gently. Marcus shook his head. "I can't, not yet." He looked out the window. Leo was in the backyard playing with the dog. He was 13 now, taller. But he didn't wear the newsboy cap anymore. He didn't like dressing up. He wore hoodies and kept his head down when they went out. The innocence was gone. Rourke had stolen something more valuable than a camera lens. He had stolen Leo's sense of ownership over his own life. He had taught a 12-year-old boy that no matter how polite you are, no matter how well you dress, no matter if your father literally built the ground you stand on, you are still a suspect in the eyes of the state. Marcus walked to the backyard. "Hey, Leo." Leo looked up. "Hey, Dad." "I was thinking," Marcus said, swallowing the lump in his throat. "Maybe we go take some pictures at the beach today. Just us. No crowds." Leo hesitated. The fear flickered in his eyes, the ghost of Sergeant Rourke standing between them. Then slowly he nodded. "Okay, but can I use your phone? I don't want the big camera." "Yeah," Marcus said, his heart breaking all over again. "You can use the phone." This is the reality of what happened in Founders Square. It wasn't just a legal battle. It was a theft of joy. The lesson here isn't just about bad apples. It's about the barrel. It's about a system that looked at 42 complaints and said, "Good job." It's about the assumption that safety requires the harassment of the innocent. Sergeant Rourke thought he was protecting the square. In reality, he was polluting it. He believed that authority gave him the right to define who belonged. But he learned a hard truth that day. The badge is a loan from the public. It is a symbol of trust, not a license to bully. When you use power to punch down, eventually the ground will rise up to meet you. Marcus Ellison stood his ground, not just for his rights, but for his son's future. He forced a city to look in the mirror. So the next time you see someone recording the police, the next time you hear about a suspicious person who was just living their life, remember Leo Ellison. Remember the fear in his eyes, and ask yourself, what kind of safety are we building if it comes at the cost of a child's innocence? We need to demand a world where a father can take a picture of his son without preparing for a war. Because if we don't, if we stay silent, then we are all just waiting for our turn against the wall. If you agree that we need stronger laws against police misconduct, drop a "Justice for Leo" in the comments. And don't forget to like and share this story. We have to keep the light on because darkness hates a witness. Thanks for watching.
This briefing is now complete. For more factual case reviews, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching Bodycam Incident Reports.